Good evening. I'm hereby calling to order the October 22nd, 2018 meeting of the Mayfield Heights City Council. May I have a roll call, please, Lisa?
Mr. Balestria,
Present.
Mr. DeJohn,
Here.
Mrs. Finney,
Here.
Mr. Mano,
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Here.
Mrs. Snyder, Mrs. Tressi.
Here. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We apologize for the delay in the meeting. We had a prior meeting that ran a few minutes late. Next is the approval of the minutes from the Council of the Whole meeting on October 8th, 2018. I hope everyone had time to read them over. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the council meeting on October 8th, 2018?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, seconded by Mr. Mano. Are there any suggested changes, amendments, or deletions to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved as written. Next is the approval from the minutes from the regular council meeting on October 8th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Mrs. Teresi, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. Are there any suggested changes, amendments, or deletions to those minutes? Since there are no suggested amendment changes, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pardon? I thought there was opposed. Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and the minutes are approved as written. Next on our agenda are correspondence and announcements. Does any member of council have any correspondence or announcements? Mrs. Sabetta?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A resolution of remembrance and appreciation for Brian Sherwin. Brian Sherwin was founder and ardent supporter of the Chagrin River Watershed Partners, Incorporated. Upon his death, Brian Sherman, on September 16, 2017, the CRWP lost a strong leader and supporter. The Board of Trustees of the Chagrin River Watershed Partners acknowledge and express its gratitude for the contributions made by Brian Sherwin, for his vision, leadership, friendship, and for the vital role that he played in its founding and continued success. Adopted by the Board of Trustees of the CRWP at its annual meeting on September 18, 2018. Godspeed, Brian Sherwin.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Any other correspondence or announcements? Seeing none, we'll move to reports of the officers, starting with the mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. The city has received the Heritage Home Program third quarter report, and it shows that our residents continue to take advantage of the program. Third quarter numbers were 29 inquiries, 5 technical visits, 4 site visits, and 2 loans signed. For the year to date, there has been 21 site visits and 30 technical assistance given. So we will be receiving a renewal letter for the program around the first week of November. Last year the program fee was around $7,200, and I would encourage council to continue our participation, as the report shows our residents do use the program. The Cuyahoga County Solid Waste Management District has released their draft plan update. The plan update was prepared by the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste Policy Committee and the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste Management District as required by Ohio Revised Code. And the plan updates the plan that was ratified by communities in 2012. So the Solid Waste District is seeking public comment and holding public hearings to begin the overall process required by the state of Ohio to ratify the plan update. Following the public comment period, the plan update will be submitted to the legislative body of each community for approval. This will take place in January. So I would suggest that council and residents take a look at this plan, the update. You can see it at the website, which is cuyahogarecycles.org, or at the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District office, which is located at 4750 East 131st Street. And written comments should be sent to Diane Bickett, Executive Director, at that same address as the district. This week, Dr. Genn Orthodontics, located on Mayfield Road, celebrated its 20th anniversary of private practice. We presented Dr. Genn and his staff with a proclamation from the city. And as a thank you for keeping our community safe, Dr. Genn offered orthodontic treatment at 50% off his normal fee of braces to Mayfield Heights police officers and firefighters. So that was a nice, thoughtful, and generous act on his behalf to our safety forces. And also one more reminder about the Community Partnership on Aging's 40th anniversary dinner chili cook-off celebration. You can get your tickets at the South Euclid or Lyndhurst offices of CPA, and they would need to be purchased by the 24th, which is Wednesday. Wednesday, yes. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions for the mayor? Mr. DeJohn?
Thank you, Madam President. Mayor, I got a text from a resident last Thursday. It said, "Hello, Bob. Tuesday afternoon, I received the following email regarding tax issue 48 from Mayor DeSico. He sent this with the City of Mayfield Heights seal, apparently representing the city. My point is, you should have access to use the same public email address list that he uses to express your goal. Otherwise, he may be accessing our information in an unjustified and partisan manner." The email was as follows, which you probably know what email he's talking about. Now, I thought this was illegal for the city to be promoting a tax increase. So I just need, I've already contacted the election board, but they haven't gotten back to me, which I'll try again tomorrow, but just wanted to know, I thought it was illegal for the city to be promoting a tax increase.
Mayor?
President, yeah. The email was informational only, which the city is allowed to do. It was not promoting.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions for the mayor?
Madam President,
Mr. DeJohn?
so you're saying, Mayor, that it was explaining rather than not promoting?
Correct.
So then how come you didn't keep Malamet on board to explain this?
Because the contract ran out, and I didn't feel that we needed Mr. Mohammed to do what he was already doing at the beginning. We have consulted him, and we have some language that he suggested, and we just continue to use it.
So then do I have access to that email system that you were using so I can give my side of the tax increase?
Well, I wasn't giving a side. It was informational only, and that would be illegal if you used that same information, or I should say that same email list, and gave an opinion, whether to vote yes or to vote no on it.
It still appears that we were using
But it's,
Mayfield Heights funds and email addresses, what have you. I mean, this resident was disturbed by it, so we'll just leave it at that, and
Thank
we'll
you.
get the opinion from the election.
And next we'll move to Director of Law, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Are there any questions for Mr. Murphy? Seeing none, we'll go to Director of Finance, Mr. Tribby.
I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Tribby. Are there any questions for Mr. Tribby? Next on our agenda are reports of committees, commissions, and boards. Today we'll start with the Building Committee, Mrs. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Building Committee has not met, so I have no report.
Thank you, Mrs. Snyder. Are there any questions for Mrs. Snyder? We'll move on to Finance and Audit Committee, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. No report.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Any questions for Mrs. Sabetta? Legislative Committee, Mrs. Tressi.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We just held a legislative committee meeting to discuss ordinance 2018-29 that is tabled and on our agenda. And we are going to do some research and work on updating that ordinance before we take it off the table. And I apologize that we ran 10 minutes over. It was the legislative committee's fault that we were a little bit late.
Thank you, Mrs. Teresi.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mrs. Teresi? Next is Public Works and Service Committee, Mr. Balestria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did not meet, therefore I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Balestria. Are there any questions for Mr. Balestria? Mrs. Teresi?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Balestria, are we beginning to look at the recycling contracts? I believe that our Kimball contract will be up possibly at the end of the year. I was wondering if we were going out for bids.
I do not know. I see Mr. Fernao shaking his head no.
No? Is it too
Mayor?
soon? It's too soon?
Can I defer to Mr. Fernaro? Madam
Mr.
Chair?
Fenaro saying it's, Mayor said what? I'm sorry, Mayor?
Mayor?
He's looking at you.
We have 2 years.
Oh, we still have two more years. Oh, it's a
Two
it's a
years left.
5-year contract? Was it a 5-year contract?
4.
4. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Then we'll move on to Recreation and Parks Committee, Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mayfield Heights Halloween Party is scheduled for Saturday, October 27th at the Dijon Community Center from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. The cost is $7 per person. Tickets must be purchased in advance. Adult afternoon out scheduled for Tuesday, November 13th from 12 to 2 p.m. The menu includes turkey, sides, dessert, and beverage, entertainment, just-in-time duo. This event is sponsored by Highland Point. Advanced registration is required. Our next Silver Social Dinner Dance is coming up on Saturday, November 17th from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Entertainment by the Golden Notes. Menu would be lasagna, salad, bread, dessert, and coffee. $10 per person with advanced registration required by November the 12th. Wildcat Sport and Fitness. Now that the weather is changing, we have a wide range of programs for your family to join. Membership is not required to participate in our programs. Call 440-995-6840 or visit the city's website to learn more about programs like pickleball, indoor bocce, yoga, tai chi, kids yoga, kids kung fu, Dance to Evolve, cycling, adult water exercise programs, and much more. For any information on any recreational program, please call the office at 442-2627 or check the city website. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mano. Any questions for Mr. Mano? Seeing none, we'll move on to Safety and Transportation, Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. DeJohn. Are there any questions for Mr. DeJohn? Next, we'll move on to Board of Zoning Appeals, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, the Board of Zoning met on October 9th. There are several resolutions on the agenda tonight that can be addressed when they're presented. One item was tabled due to lack of criteria. The applicants are present, and I encourage them to present their request during the public portion at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Any questions for Mrs. Sabetta? Seeing none, we'll move on to Planning Commission, Mr. Balestria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, the Planning Commission did not have an agenda and did not meet, so this evening I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Balestria. Any questions for Mr. Balestria? We will now move on to the public portion of the meeting. Pursuant to City Code, each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire public portion. Although it is not a time for public debate, this is your opportunity to address council with your concerns. Please know there will be no personal attacks or comments. Also, if you are here in a connection with an agenda item, this is your opportunity to address council. If you would like to be heard this evening, please raise your hand and be recognized. Then approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. It is now 7:25. I will open the public portion to this gentleman right in front. Could you talk in the microphone and please, your name and address, please?
Good evening, Madam President, Mr. Mayor, and respected council members. I presented my case in the Planning Commission. At that time, it was not recommended. At that time, I didn't have, I guess, sufficient papers. Now I brought all the information and I would like to present my case. Basically, I don't know much about the rules, but I am the owner of property 1130, which I purchased. This property, since last 39 years, was used as a two-family home. And here is the proof from the city papers, which at that time I didn't have. Ms. Edith M. Jones was the previous owner. She used to live at this address. This is her application for the point of sale in 2009. She lived there for 39 years, she used this property in 39 years as a two-family unit right here. After the point of sale inspection, this is the report, and in this report there was no recommendation that this structure should be changed to a completely, which I was asked to change it to single-family structure. Here's the remaining portion of the report, other than some smoke detectors and some minor things. And I would like to show some pictures. This is the property with two front doors. This is the address 1130. This is the side door. This is the side door, and this is the door for the upstairs. Both units has two separate doors. Both units has two electrical meter. This is the inside, up and down. That was outside. It has the two internet connections. This is the back door for the downstairs unit, and I showed already on the back side there was a separate door. On the front for upstairs, going upstairs, this is the stairs. This is looking from up from for the same stairs. I'm rushing because I have only 5 minutes.
Correct.
This is another view for the upstairs. This is the back entrance of the unit. The upper unit consists of a hallway. There is a room here. On each side is bathrooms, storerooms, dining room, and the kitchen. On this right hand side is a full bath. There's a full kitchen, and this is the laundry room, and the dining room picture is on the left hand side. Now, my request to the council members is that the way this property was used since last 39 years, as the city records shows, please let me use the property the same way so that it is not undue hardship for me. I don't know how to change. They told me to change the doors, make it a single family. It will be very expensive for me, and I'm not a businessman. I wanted to live in the property and rent upstairs. So please, if you have any question, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. We'll call you back up at that part of if anyone has any questions. Thank you so much. Anybody else like to be heard? Mr. Kramer?
Good evening. Fred Kramer, 1187 Golden Gate Boulevard. As council knows, I rarely comment on cases that have been before the board at this time. I am making an exception dealing with the application relative to the self-storage facility. I am asking the council to consider the ramifications of the decision of the board. This is not a request for a variance. This is not something inherent to the land or runs with the land. This is a request by the applicant actual application. There is no actually schematic. We don't know exactly what will be said and what will be built, or if anything will be built. All we know is that this is his proposal. At the time, he was not aware of any of the ramifications. I was moved to return here because I looked at the public comment of the October 8th council meeting, and I saw much of the discussion dealt with this type of use, what was going to happen, what he was going to build there, and all the rest of it. None of that was before the board. The only thing that was before the board is the question of, is this a use consistent with a U4 district? My problem, based on the board's finding, any self-storage unit can be determined to be consistent with a U4 district. And I think it's precedental as far as the city is concerned. I'm concerned that it would be allowed to be built anywhere in the city, not just on this property, but anywhere else, because now the Board of Zoning Appeals has made a determination that a self-storage unit is consistent with the uses, and the applicant's basic position was that, okay, hotel rents rooms, the present location rents space, therefore we are renting self-storage, therefore the same. And I disagreed at the time. My vote was in the negative because of that. The problem that I have is I can see this being applied any U4 in the city of Mayfield Heights, and I can see it applied in any situation, in any type of application. In other words, we could have those normal little pods that you see in many of the self-storage. They could be anywhere around. Back of Golden Gate, back of Mainland, you name it. In addition to that, I then looked at the U4A, and the provision of U4A permitted uses is that any use permitted in U4 is permitted in U4A. Now I've got the additional problem. I think it could be used anywhere in the city, U4, U4A, which brings Eastgate, Golden Gate into the mix. So that's the ramifications I saw of this. As I looked at the correspondence and information, it was clear that we're getting into this being a set in stone type, which we normally have. That's not the case. It's a decision by the board that this is a use consistent. I didn't think it was, voted against it because I don't think it is, but that's one of the ramifications of it. So I want the council to be aware that there are extensive ramifications as far as this particular application is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to be heard tonight, sir?
Hi, my name is Matthew Shaler, I live on 1136 Jackie Lane. And good evening. I'm one of the pastors at Merge City Church, a recently launched church in Mayfield Heights just a couple weeks ago. We've been meeting at the theater at Play Arcade and Kitchen on Mayfield Road, and I just wanted to come tonight and let you know that we love the community of Mayfield Heights. Our heart is to see people experience hope and love in a time where it's really hard to find. And we have a heart for this city and community, and it's personally where I grew up and obviously where I live with my family now. So please let us know if there's anything we can do to support you all, this city, this community. We have several ideas and opportunities coming down the road where we'd love to be just a blessing to the community and a blessing to you all and the people of this community. We would be honored if you let us know if there's anything we can do for you and help you all. And I'd love to connect with you if you'd be interested. Please know that we're praying for you all, and thank you for this time this evening.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to be heard? Sir?
John Molchan, 1966 Reed's Court Trail. It's in Westlake, Ohio. We're the ones proposing the self-storage facility. I think I understand Mr. Kramer's concerns, and if doing it as some sort of variance or something that doesn't create a precedence as an option, I think we're fine with that. I think the question before the board is whether it is in general keeping with the U4 district. The U4 district is resale and wholesale. It has a lot of retail service, which is what a self-storage facility is. So it allows banks, funeral homes, theaters, car washes, coin-operated machines, auto service, facilities. We do rent space, just as when it was a racquetball space in the building was rented out by the hour. We currently rent out space by the month, since most of the leases are month to month. A hotel rents out space in the same U4 district, the hotel right next door by the day. And we think that the use is very consistent with the U4. Like I said, if you're worried about setting a precedent, there's a better way to do it. We'd be more than willing to, I don't know if it can be done as a variance, I don't know, whatever. The facility should generate about $400,000 a year in property taxes, $100,000 in real estate taxes. I know not all that goes to the city, but it should be good for the community. It produces very low traffic. You're unlikely to get anything that produces less traffic. And there's a large local need. There are no facilities currently within 3 miles, although one will open soon about 2.7 miles away. Other uses for the building, I think you're much more likely to get a Dollar General than a Macy's, and it'll have much more traffic and things of that nature. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anyone has, either now or later.
We'll do that later. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll end the public portion at 7:36. Next on our agenda is Resolution 2018-59. I'm going to once again ask Mrs. Snyder to chair this resolution, since I have a personal relationship with the business property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2018-59, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Acting Chair. Resolution number 2018-59, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in determining a self-storage facility use proposed by John Mulchin on behalf of Fairchild Management Company for 1413 Golden Gate Boulevard, Mayfield Heights, Ohio, also known as permanent parcel numbers 862-06-050, 862-06-071, 862-06-072, and 862-06-073 is a use consistent with the uses authorized in a U4 local retail wholesale district. Third reading.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Mano. Second.
Second.
By Mr. Balistreo. We all received the minutes from the BZA meeting, and we heard from the applicant at the last council meeting as well as tonight. And we also just recently heard from Mr. Kramer tonight. This was a 3-2 vote by the BZA, and I can ask Mrs. Sabetta, would you like to add anything to this discussion?
Thank you, Madam Acting Chair. This is a use proposal for self-storage in a U4 local retail wholesale district. Permitted uses in accordance with 115302C. Exceptions to district regulations. The BZA may permit in a use district any use that is believed by the board to be in general keeping with the authorized in such district. Council, as she said, should have the meetings. Also, the applicant did email to Councilman DeJohn a long information concerning the property. As you see, the applicant is present. The discussion was a definition of retail and the selling of goods and services was mentioned. The committee discussed and had opinions on uses in general keeping, such as consumers pay for storage, the selling or leasing of space, and providing a service. The retail renting of a space as hotel and office. The chairman that spoke recently did not have this comment for us at the BZA. So it was a 3-2 for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta.
Madam Chairman?
Does any member of council have any questions? Mr. Mano?
Yes, I do. Initially, I had my doubts about this project, and last Saturday, in the rain, I drove out to Westlake, and I looked at the current facility that's there. If I could ask Mr. Mochin to step up at the podium and show these pictures, please. What I found out there was a very neat, clean, attractive facility. Went through the facility, conference room, lobby, wine storage place. I was very impressed with the facility. We have on that parcel right now a 35-year-old building that is in a lot of disrepair. We have a masonry wall that's falling down. After visiting the site, I changed my mind about this facility. I think this facility would be a great fit there. I think it would clean up a problem. The caveat I would have, I know they had mentioned the possibility of renovating and extending the current facility. I would say tear the facility down, start fresh, clean slate, and build this thing. The other caveat is the wall. I don't want vinyl. I don't want mounding or foliage screening. I want a wall. There's residential property butted right up against it, and that's essential. So if the applicant is willing to consider the demolition of the existing building and the rebuilding of that masonry wall, I would tend to support this. Now, if you please show these photographs. This is the entrance that you're seeing first. All right? The grounds are neat and clean. Everything about it is very appealing, very, very eye appealing. There's some interior photographs.
For full disclosure, because there was some confusion, we do not own this particular facility. We rent
Correct.
space at this particular facility, but this is what we're trying to duplicate.
That's the interior on the second floor. The facility is fully carpeted. All the bins, all the storage units are neat and clean. There's a lounge area for people who are storing things in there where they can have something to drink or have a sandwich. It's just a very nice facility. I was really, really taken aback by it. It was nothing that I had expected to see. And after seeing it, I'm saying, why not? This would be great there. There should be another. That's the interior where the people drive in. Now, this was a Saturday morning at approximately 10 o'clock. And as you can see, there's one vehicle in there. There was 2 cars parked outside and the one inside. But they drive in here. There's an elevator. They can get to that second floor with their things that they want to store. And again, I was just blown away by how clean the facility was. It's really very nice. So in essence, what I'm saying is that provided those 2 caveats take place, demolition of the existing building and the rebuilding of that wall, I would want to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeJohn.
Mr. Kramer, can you step up to the podium, please? So, Mr. Kramer, based on what the applicant said, is there a better way that we could do this without upsetting our U4 and U4A districts?
That's the problem that I have, Mr. DeJohn, very frankly, because a finding of fact by the Board of Zoning Appeals can be applied. And the problem that I have, I know what Mr. Mano is saying. What he has submitted is a gorgeous facility, which wasn't his, was somebody else's, and which he is now proposing. What I am suggesting, though, that if council gives the approval he can put any type of storage facility in there. He chooses which will fit the code, and we've lost control of that aspect of it. And I don't know whether there is something to do it. I was thinking at the time we had our meeting, whether there was some condition to be applied or something like that. But I didn't see something because it's not a variance running with the land. It is a determination by the board of a particular type of use. I mean, you and I and us, all of us went through this very much when we talked at what was Panini's on Abachi. Same principle, Mr. John. What is running consistent use with it? And we had a discussion, and it was a long, involved discussion relative to that before it was finally resolved. But it's the same thing. Somebody else could then put in Abachi. Somebody else can put in a self-storage. That's the only thing I'm addressing, council. I am not addressing the facility Mr. Mano looked at, the facility he's applying. I'm addressing the principle of whether or not a self-storage unit is a related use in a U4 and also would be a U4A district.
So I guess would like to ask this council, would you like to see Mayland turn into a Bob's storage unit, the whole property? That conceivably could happen by what Mr. Kramer's telling us. Because we're gonna set a precedence if we approve this. I don't think I wanna do that. Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Gia. Any further questions while I'm up here?
Madam Chair, if I could just, I would like to get the law director's opinion on that. Honestly, is there a way that this can be dealt with in a different way? Putting you on the spot, Paul.
Thank you. And I'm thinking that there are a number of ways to be dealt with. What is before council tonight, and the only thing before council tonight, is confirming the decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals, which was done by 3-2, and I believe you dissented. You indicated that you were, so now you're explaining what your dissent was. But the
I
vote,
think I was remiss, Mr. Murphy, in not making it clear at the time of the meeting. So I apologize to my board for doing that, and that was my fault. And that's why I felt an obligation to be here tonight, to make it clear.
okay, and you did make it clear. Anyway, so what is before council is confirming the decision of the BZA. Mr. Kramer notwithstanding, they did vote 3-2 to make this determination. So that's what's before council. If council determines that they do not want to confirm this, then by your ordinances, you vote not to confirm it, but then there is a second step to be taken because you have to come up with some type of a decision on their application. So you could modify it or deny it, but that's not in front of council right now. The only thing, as I said, is confirming it. So you would need another step, so to speak, in order to get to a point where, as Mr. Mano said, he would go along with it if there was a wall and a new structure. That's not really in front of council tonight, you know, whether or not there's gonna be a new structure. That, maybe that was discussed at BZA, but, it's not before council. So you could modify it with those two caveats, and that would be considered at the next meeting. But you gotta vote on whether or not to confirm it right now, yes or no. That's on third reading, and you got 60 days.
I have ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
So if, could the applicant just, if this is voted on the way it reads tonight, instead of modifying and doing all that, have him go back before the BZA with another application, hearing our concerns, and possibly do a conditional use variance for this land?
He's already appeared before BZA. If you deny, if you fail to
He'd have to go back
confirm,
with another application is what
if
I'm
you
saying.
fail to confirm, then it's up to him to decide whether or not to go back to BZA, or there could be another piece of legislation that could be sponsored by any member of council, like Mr. Mano, or the mayor, that would either modify or deny the application. That's the way the ordinance reads. So, in other words, you may not confirm what was presented to BZA, but council then on its own initiative could pass legislation that would say exactly what you would permit in that area. And you get a little, I'm thinking, because it's not really a variance, it's a determination that this is a permitted use in the U4, so I'd have to take a look at that. But anyway, the only thing in front of you right now is confirming or not confirming.
Does any member of council have any further questions? Mr. Ballestero?
Yeah, I agree with what Mr. Kramer said and what the law director expressed. What's before us right now is just the BZA's decision. If we don't like the BZA's decision, it's gonna take 5 votes of this council to turn it down and overturn it. And then you're back to square one. Okay. What Mr. Mano represented is a planning commission item. If we approve this and he submits his plans, those caveats all go before the planning commission, okay, to make a determination. That's not for this board tonight to make those determinations. What's before us tonight is the use in the U4 district for this particular type of unit. Any other structure that comes into the city would still have to go before the planning commission and determine whether or not we feel that's a proper representation of a storage type unit in a U4 or U4A district. And with this type of a representation, we have a precedent that says this is the type of unit that this council, this city would like to see in our city. So we don't have to have some makeshift storage unit go in necessarily. It's still got to go through the boards and approved. So I would just tell you just before, just so you know, you're either going to vote it up or vote it down. This evening, the decision of the BZA, which would stay presented before us tonight to make a determination whether or not this is a proper use. That's all that's before us. Everything else is for further discussion after the plans have been submitted.
Mr. Murphy?
Point of clarification. The resolution to confirm requires only a simple majority.
Sure.
It's not before council to overturn. This is to confirm. If it does not pass, then council can come up with its own legislation, or they could go back to BZA with another. But it's not before council this evening to deny it. It's just to confirm it. And considering that there are an even number of votes, since there's only 6 voting, you'd need 4 out of 6 to confirm. So it takes 4 votes. And if you only get 3, it doesn't pass.
Madam
How's that?
Mr. DeJohn?
In answer to Mr. Ballestria's determination, that's all I heard when we had Taco Bell before us. They're gonna sue us, they're gonna sue us. If we don't approve this, they're gonna sue us. But now, you're looking at this, possibly putting this unit in there, possibly getting another unit anywhere in our U4 or U4A district, and are you gonna say the same thing? Well, we can't sue them. We possibly can't. Once you set the precedence, the next time somebody comes before us, no matter what planning says, we're gonna get sued. So I really am urging this council not to approve this. This is setting a huge precedence for this city. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
One other note to give council, let council know all of its options. As Mr. Mulchin indicated, this is not a variance request. This is a determination that this is a permitted use in a U4 district. The applicant conceivably could come back, or go back, I guess, to BZA and request a variance to permit that use as has been depicted on that property. And that would not be of the same precedential value for all of you four that Mr. DeJohn had expressed concern about. But that's just something that to toss out there. That's an option.
Mr. Mulchin, can I ask you a question? After all this discussion, would you consider that option? And we vote on this issue the way it sits, but then you would go back to the BZA with a different plan.
This may sound strange, but I don't want another self-storage facility in Mayfield Heights once we build one. So if there's a way to do it as a variance and it can be approved as a variance, and therefore nobody else could, when I'm not sure that you can just build it, I mean, it has to go through planning commission, you have to approve the planning commission. Same with our, we don't have drawings because we were waiting to go to the architects with a use approval. But you still have to approve it. If we come up with a crummy building, you're not gonna approve it. Having said that, if it's possible to do it as a variance, I think I'm okay with that, even though I think Mr. Kramer's gonna vote against me again.
Right, there's no guarantee.
That's just an option. I just think you heard, you haven't heard all of our opinions until tonight, so that's, and this all just came up, some of it, so that's why I just wanted to get your opinion on that option. Mrs. Sabata?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, my understanding is that BZA does not set a precedent. We take each case as it comes forth. So
Correct.
I'm not sure that if another storage unit came forth, that we would use this as a precedent against it or for it. Is that correct?
Mr. DeJohn?
Yeah.
No, Chairman gave me a floor. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Murphy will probably answer it, but once you permit this in a U4, it's part of U4, no matter where it is in our U4 or U4A district, according to what Mr. Kramer said. Correct, Mr. Kramer? Mr. Kramer nodded yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, thank you. Mrs. Sabetta is correct. If it is a variance, it is not necessarily of precedential value anywhere else in the community. So you're both right. If this resolution passes, then yes, you could have a storage facility similar to yours. You know, I don't know how different they are, but let's assume that somebody else wanted to put one identical to you. That would be a permitted use in a U4 district, because council has determined that's a permitted use, whereas a variance is not of precedential value because it goes with the specific property. So in that case, if you got a variance to put up this specific unit and then somebody else came in and wanted to put a similar unit in another U4 area, that would stand on its own. It would not necessarily be a permitted use. So I think that would accomplish what you're looking for. It wouldn't be automatic that there'd be a second storage facility permitted in the city.
I think that would be acceptable to us, especially if we thought it could get it through BZA.
Well, there's no guarantee.
Mr.
I'm
Man,
very well aware of that.
Mr. Mano?
Eventually, it comes back to council, too.
Mr. Mano?
I just wanted to say that after all the wailing and gnashing of teeth that happened over the Paninis thing, is there any other bocce courts and facilities in the city? How many parcels in this city would support a building of this size? And who in the heck in their right mind would pay the kind of money that Mayland would want for a piece of their property to do something like that? So what I'm saying, I guess, is don't cry wolf until you see him coming to the door.
So,
Mr. DeJohn?
Mr. Mano, that was, Panini's was a little different item. As I'll refer back to what Mayor DeSico told us at the time, is that it went through the Planning Commission. And they gave Panini's an accessory use. This is different. We are changing this to a use consistent with a U4 and a U4A. So that's a big difference there. So if we approve this tonight, we are giving them carte blanche, anyone in our U4 to put in a storage facility.
No, they
Does
still
it
have to
bother
go
anybody but
before
me that
planning.
taps is playing in the background?
Yes, I hear.
I hope not.
I think it's bagpipes, because this is gonna go down tonight, so.
Oh, boy.
Miss, someone else.
Call for the vote.
Lisa, roll call.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
No.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Abstain due to conflict.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. So
Mrs.
this,
Finney?
Abstain.
so this is a 4-1 with 2 abstention vote. So the resolution passes.
Thank you. Okay, everybody ready? Let's move on. Our next agenda item is Resolution 2018-66. Mr. Murphy, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution number 2018-66, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in denying to Zayed I. Zaidi, 1130 Wharton Boulevard, sorry if I mispronounced it, a variance to permit the house to be used as a two-family dwelling, Cuyahoga County permanent parcel number 862-04-025. First reading.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. Roll call, please, on the motion to suspend.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Teresi, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. Discussion. Mr. Manna.
I think the most succinct way I can put this is how in the hell did this happen for 30 years? How did this happen? With all the signs there, 2 doors, 2 electric services, how did it happen? Somebody sure as hell missed the boat on this thing. They had point of sale inspections. Nobody noticed that there was 2 kitchens and 2 bathrooms and everything else. This is totally against our housing ordinance, and I'll tell you what, whoever fell asleep at the switch on this one, there should be ramifications.
Thank you, Mr. Mano. Mr. Balestria.
Yeah, I just had a question for Mrs. Sabetta. The applicant presented some photographs. Were those the same photographs that presented to you? Were you aware of those things? The paperwork that he presented, that there was a city document or city documents at the time he presented to the BZA?
No, we were not aware of that. Matter of fact, it even states in the minutes, there's no evidence that the house was legally converted, and as he stated, the papers he's showing you, he did not have for the BZA. But what is also stated is what it is now. From what I understood from the building department, the woman was going to sell the home many, many years ago. They're not even sure, 9-10 years ago, correct? And she went in for a point of sale and never sold the home. Then those, like I said,
Go ahead, Mr.
Mrs. Teresi.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. So Mrs. Sabetta, if she, excuse me, if she's never sold a home, how did this gentleman purchase the house?
sheriff's sale without an attorney, and that question was asked to him.
And did Mr. Jameson have any idea that there was no point of sale?
There was the point of sale.
So he was aware of the point of sale. So one of his inspectors or someone one of the inspectors on staff
Okay,
did the point of sale?
let's go back. The gentleman explained to us that when he went to buy the property, he went to the city to see what needed to be done. And he was given that information on what they had on the property. But he did not have that information for us at the BZA.
I understand, thank you. My
That's-
question is,
yes.
did Mr. Jameson acknowledge that one of our city inspectors ever went to the home and did an inspection on this property at any point between it going to sheriff's sale and this gentleman purchasing it?
Well, they would have
Yes.
had to have through the
Yes.
building, yeah.
Yes,
And the determination was it was a single-family home?
yes, that's what he told us, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam
Mr.
President.
DeJohn?
Mr. Kramer, did you want to say something?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer, would you please approach the mic?
Amy, she did discussion. Okay, let me go first. Yes.
Point of sale inspection was done a number of years in the past. At the time of a sheriff's sale, there is normally not a point of sale inspection.
Right.
So in answer to your question, Mrs. Tracy, there was not a point of sale inspection when this gentleman was purchasing, but there had been one done previously and the sale never went forward.
But in the point of sale, Mr. Kramer, did they determine on the paperwork that they did do years ago, before it went to sheriff's sale, was it determined that it was a two-family home?
It's on the slip. I never saw that slip until tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Belstria?
Can I,
Mr. Kramer, would, I guess, maybe off the record, I don't know that you're gonna be on the record, but hypothetically, if this information was presented to you at BZA or to your board, would you have looked at it a little differently? I want to give the gentleman a fair shake, because the question in the minutes specifically says, there's no evidence that the house was legally converted. But obviously, it's a two-family, it's been inspected in the past, it's been there for 39 years. So.
We don't know any of those answers. That's a crazy thing. We don't know when it was converted. We don't know when the meters were added. One of the meters was not functioning. We don't know when the other things were done. We don't know who did what at any time. There was nothing that the applicant had or the city had that told us that. In answer to your question, my focus, and this is only my personal one, I'm one member of the board, obviously,
Yep.
is what was the notice was existent? Because if you look at the house, it's clearly sits on the street it's a two-family sitting in the midst of a lot of small houses. There's no question about just going by and looking at it, you can see that it's a two-family, or at least it appears to be a two-family. You don't know what's going on inside. But having said that, the question is, did the purchaser do due diligence in making a determination? And he did talk to the city. When was the conversion taking place? Was it used as such? None of those questions were available to the board, and we did search that and just spent a lot of time trying to come to the answers to that. It just simply was not available to us. So we don't have the answer, and we did not obviously have the document pertaining to the earlier inspection that was done a number of years back.
Yeah,
Mr.
it
Kramer.
specifically says it's a two-family dwelling.
Pardon?
It specifically states it's a two-family dwelling.
Yes, we did not have that information.
Mr. Kramer, do you feel that if you would have changed your vote if you thought that? Because I didn't know that, and I was gonna vote to confirm that, but after I heard the applicant, personally, I've changed my mind because I know the house, and it's been a two-family for so long, and I feel like this man bought it as a two-family, and it was misrepresented because the city went along with it for all these years.
I can only answer the fact that it was not available to us. It was an item of evidence that was not before us, and I'm sure it would have been taken into consideration by the members of the board in arriving at their determination. We did sympathize and empathize with a gentleman who had made a good faith effort and purchased an income property.
Correct. Mr. Mano?
If we allow this, what does that do to our current ordinance? you're gonna open up floodgates. This cannot stand. It cannot be allowed. And again, I think we should do some investigating and find out how in the hell this went on for the length of time it did without somebody noticing this and doing something about it.
Thank you, Mr. Mano. Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes, okay. You know, this is a variance to permit 1130 Wharton Boulevard to be used as a two-family dwelling. The request, as it appears on the application, which is a Class U2, that's a two-family, use in a Class U1 zoning district, which is a single-family. We had no evidence that the home was legally converted. The property showed one electric meter. The other one is popped out. I went to visit the property. The back entrance safety issue, we never would have allowed an entrance up 3 flights of stairs. The two-car garage looks just like a single family would have. There's only one furnace and there's only one address to the parcel. And it was stated that there were violations to address. That top page just stated that the owner called it a two-family. That's what we had in front of us, and that's what became the unanimous denial. Not to compare, but we did have a home like this. I asked for that information, and they used it as a two-family for years.
That's Sunset.
2017-39. It was Anthony Christoph and Robert Christoph, 1514 Woodrow Avenue. And they used it for years as a two-family. They said they bought it as a two-family.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Mr. DeJohn?
Chief Elliott, can you come to the podium, please? Do all houses in the city of Mayfield Heights need to have two egress and ingress?
Well, the fire department does not have any jurisdiction over residential, unless it's multifamily, such as apartment buildings. So single-family homes, that's all on a residential building code, which is through the building department. But generally speaking, there are multiple exits, either.
Correct, so this would be a fire hazard when there's only one entrance and exit, correct? If we allow this to make it a two-family home?
I would have to look at the property, but I would prefer not to have a single entrance such as that. But I would have to look at that property.
There are two entrances and exits. He showed us the pictures. One in the front, one in the back, Mayor saying. Any other comments, questions? Mrs. Teresi?
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Didn't we have an exterior program over between today and 39 years ago, where there was an inspector who walked the street and looked at sometimes they looked at sidewalks, sometimes they did an inspection of your property in the front. They couldn't go in your backyard, but along the way between 39 years ago and today, there had to be one of the many individuals that we've had in our building department had to inspect this property. It could never have gone 39 years without sidewalk inspection, without any other exterior. I believe Mayor Regensburg had an exterior housing inspection program. So it would have had to have been inspected along the way and been realized that it was a two-family.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call for a vote, please, Lisa. Now, keep in mind, Mr. Murphy, we need 4 for it to be confirmed. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Teresi?
A yes vote's is agreeing with the denial, correct?
Correct. A yes vote agrees with the BZA denying it to be a two-family home.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
No. The resolution 2018-66 has been adopted. Next, we'll move on to our agenda to resolution 2018-67. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution number 2018-67, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in granting to Brad Pietrafes, 6560 Ridgebury Boulevard, a variance to construct a new storage shed on the property. Cuyahoga County permanent parcel number 862-19-001, larger in area than that allowed by the codified ordinances. First reading.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, seconded by Mr. Balestria. Roll call, please, on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. Discussion, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. The request for 124 square foot variance to construct a 320 square foot storage shed in the rear yard. The maximum is 196, size permitted. If the applicant would come up and explain. It's hard for me to explain his driveway and garage.
Yes,
Do you have your picture?
yes, I do.
Thank you.
Could you have your name, address, please, for our record?
My
Thank you.
name's Brad Pietrafes. I live at 6560 Ridgebury Boulevard. What I'm looking to do is construct so I apologize for the water stains, but this is the zoning plot map of the house. This right here is my driveway. It comes up and it's a shared driveway between two houses. So we have 1.7 acres of land, and our garage size is only a 1.5 car garage attached to the house. I got an approval for a variance for building a 2-car detached garage 2 years ago, and it didn't fit the budget that I needed to have in order to construct that and enclose the attached 1.5 car garage. With having 3 kids and lots of lawn equipment and things to upkeep the yard in the backyard, I'm looking for a storage shed to store everything that my kids have, plus the yard equipment, plus yard furniture that we have to store it in the shed in a covered facility. So by not having the ability to drive all the way back to here where the 2-car garage was going to be built, I would have had to have spent probably like $12,000 in concrete. So the storage shed that we're looking to construct is this style of shed. So that shed will allow me to store all the kids' equipment, toys, things along those lines, tractor, everything that I need in order to maintain the yard. And it will allow us to have the ability to continue to enjoy our backyard the way that we have it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Mr. DeJohn?
Just one for the applicant and one for Mrs. Sabetta. Is that gonna have, water, electricity, anything of that nature?
It might have electricity, but no water.
And no water, okay, no sewers or, thank you. Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Just wanted to know how this is different. Now, you had an applicant a while back, Mr. Parator, who had a shed that was 2 foot bigger than our ordinance. How was it that you denied him but approved this? I know each case has to be evaluated by its merits, but You know, that seemed kinda, it seems kinda odd to me.
Thank you, Mr. DeJong. Mrs. Sabetta?
Thank you. Well, this type of variance is, was not only set by me, but it's a practical difficulty. And we felt that, the committee felt that the applicant's extension of the driveway to meet a two-car planned, considered garage, and the closeness of the neighboring driveway, and the expense of it being a practical difficulty, it was seen. Also, there is 1.7 acres there. There's a lot of acreage. I
Thank
would
you,
not
Mrs. Smith.
compare this to the other applicant you were speaking of.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Mrs. Teresi?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I see that we have the adjacent property owners. Did any of the property owners write in to say that they don't mind having that large facility in the backyard or next door?
No, not to my knowledge, no. We did
Thank
not
you.
receive that.
Because I remember, and I was council president when Mr. Parator was asked to tear his shed down because it was 2 feet too big. And it was, his yard is probably much smaller, and it was only 2 feet too large. And he was told to take that down, and now we're building a little house here.
Thank you,
for
Mrs.
gardening
Teresi.
equipment. Well, I wasn't done speaking before you interrupted me, but I'll be finished now, Mrs. Finney.
Thank you, Mrs. Teresi. Can we have a roll call, please, Lisa?
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. DeJong?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes,
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes, Resolution 2018-67 has been adopted. Next on our agenda is Resolution 2018-68. Mr. Murphy, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution number 2018-68, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in granting to Brad Petrofes, 6560 Ridgeberry Boulevard, a variance to construct a new storage shed on the property. Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 862-19-001, taller than that allowed by the codified ordinances. First reading.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mrs. Snyder, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Can we have a roll call, please, on the motion to suspend?
Mrs. Sabetta?
yes,
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. DeJong?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. Think we've already had discussion. Anything else? Roll call, please, Lisa.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mr. DeJong?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
yes,
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. Resolution 2018-68 has been adopted. Next on the agenda, we have no ordinances tonight, so we'll move on to motions. We have one motion this evening. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Motion, authorized bids for air packs for the fire department.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this evening?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. Any discussion, Mr. DeJong, I believe? You would approve?
No.
Yep.
Unless the chief wants to.
Okay,
Got a memo.
we all got the memo. Okay, thank you. Therefore, can we have a roll call, please, Lisa?
Mr. DeJong?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes.
Mr. Belistria?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes. Motion has been approved. That is it for this evening. Is there any new business or comments from council? Seeing none, could I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you for being here this evening. I adjourn the meeting.